I'm the guy who left Japan when I was 20, and since then, I've been living in North America and in Europe for almost 8.5, almost 9 years right now. I want to talk about why I left Japan as a native Japanese, born Japanese. Granted, Japan is one of the most interesting and one of the most probably exciting or richest history, one of the best food culture in the entire world, one of the cleanest country in the entire world. I've traveled to about 13, 14 countries right now, North America, Oceania, Asia, Europe, but I've never seen any countries that are cleaner than Japan, even Tokyo. Tokyo is probably the most crowded, biggest metropolitan city, even bigger than New York or London. So why? Japan has so much to offer: food, culture, history, artsy, music, food, restaurants, historic sites. Everything is in proximity. It's not like United States or Canada or Australia where you need a car 13 hours drive to go to other end of the country, right? So why? So I'm gonna explain that from my perspective as an insider. So, I was in high school back in 2008. That's when the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy and the subprime loan thing happened, the world economic crisis. And that's the time, exact year I was graduating in 2008. And I was one of the generations where we've never experienced any, upside in economic cycle in Japan. So 1989, 1990, there was a economic bubble hit in Japan. So since then, it's been 20 years long depression in Japan, deflation as well. Deflation, I don't know. But anyways, our generation has never experienced that economic upturn. And then 2008, the huge, biggest economic thing happened, and I was graduating from high school, and my parents are struggling to pay for some of the high school expenses, monthly, $50 ish. And I was thrown into the situation where I either decide to work part-time to support myself for university education while I study. So it's kind of a full-time study and a part-time working, and then get what's called a quote-unquote Japanese government scholarship, which is not really scholarship, it's really a student loan, or I don't have any other choice. My parents told me 6 months before, 6 months into my grade 12, and I wasn't really prepared. To give you context, almost all Japanese high school students are given financial support from their parents. So it's really common. I think it's a similar practice in China or Korea or Taiwan. Parents usually support their kids' university education, as opposed to Canadian or American kids where they take loans by themselves and then they pay off after graduation. So I wasn't really mentally prepared to accept the fact that my parents, my dad told me oh hey, I can't pay you for university. You gotta get government student loan, and also you gotta work part-time for delivering a newspaper in the morning, blah blah blah. You gotta work your asshole, blah blah blah. And I was fuck, so that was 2008. So give you context, was it was not one of the best times to think about my future, with my parents struggling financially, and then entire world, not Japan, but entire world, being pessimistic. And then one of the biggest companies Lehman Sachs, not Lehman Sachs, it's Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, Citibank, AIG, I think GM all like went bankrupt, and it was quite a bit of a pessimistic atmosphere every day. TV watching news and nothing good coming out from the news. And I thought to myself, like, what am I going to do in this country for next 5-10 years? Even if I manage to get into university, there is no like job prospect. Like, first of all, what kind of study, like what kind of major to choose, if I were to go to university in Japan. And then second thing was like there are not many good paying jobs with like good work and life balance in Japan. It's really known that many salarymen like the full salaryman in a train after 10 p.m., 11 p.m., going home. They have no family time. They just getting worn out by working their ass off. They're pretty much being submissive to their bosses and basically pleasing their bosses. And then they have no choice. They just limit it. I felt like they're like a slave, company slaves. That's what they call it. So that's like a work culture that that I've observed. How? Because in high school I was taking train to commute to my high school, and in the morning and after evening, like in the morning rush, I see like people. If you've traveled to Japan, those faces like robotic, emotionless, super tired. Those like their eyes are dead, like real dead. They don't have the emotion or energy, deep inside. They're kind of like a robot tamed by companies and shackles. That's what I felt like. They're like emotionless. They just given up their dreams and their lives and goals. That's what I saw as a high school student. I was much more pure. I was able to see things through, and that wasn't what I wanted to become when I became like older, adult, family. I definitely don't want to commute 10 p.m., 11 p.m., like looking super exhausted and looking like basically you have nothing inside left, because it's all like I don't know how to explain this, but you become like a ghost, almost like their face, and you compound that effect for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. After that, what's going to happen? It's unreversible. It's going to do so much damage to their personalities, their sense of happiness, and sense of like a reality of what's possible and what is not possible. Think about, put yourself into their shoes. Like, they don't have more than like 10 days or 15 days of vacation days. They can't even manage to take 3 or 5 consecutive vacation days usually, because it's so hard to take vacations, right? No family time. Obviously, that's why they have less sex, because guys, just their energy is sucked off by companies and work, and they have other, priority and obligation, which is basically work. Not necessarily productive work, but just to stay at the office, to please to please their bosses, whatever. Think about those companies, like if you're going to financial industry, those investment banking, they have no work-life balance. Like people like working in Chicago, like Wall Street in the East Coast, New York, they don't have work balance, for 2-3 years. Same as a consultant, like Deloitte. So pretty much you're giving up 2-3 years personal life for your career. That's pretty much, summing up what it's like to work at, financial industry. You work until like 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. You can just leave because, performance and pressure and all that. That's based on based on the stories that I heard from those actual people who work in like Wall Street or financial industry or consultant field. But anyways, so I digress. But so yeah, work culture wise, I've seen that all, like every single day commuting on a train, and do I want to model these guys sitting right next to me, looking like a dead man, like without any souls inside, and like looking like just, just piece of meat from companies, whole society, Japan is not people-friendly culture. It doesn't have people-friendly culture. Like, let's say, opposite spectrum is like Scandinavian countries where they have much better, one of the best social welfare system. Japan is like extreme end. It seems like you guys have this impression like Japan is like so progressive and innovative and a tech forward country, but it's really not. It's really archaic, outdated. They have a lot of obsolete practices. That's what I wrote in the third bullet point. But anyways, so they work their ass off, low pay, because the economy is not that great, right? So how can companies pay good salary, compared to Silicon Valley or like compared to China? There are normally investment money coming in, and companies are keeping their own money instead of satisfying, keeping their employees happy. That work culture and the low pay connected, and then obsolete practice, business practice. They need to, probably you've heard about it, but work culture in Korea, China, Japan, not China, but Korea, Japan, kind of similar, I heard. Basically, you go, they're crazy, those salarymen like wearing tie, and then they go drink after work with coworkers, and after that, 11 p.m., they go to another one based on, I don't know, the sense of obligation with their, bosses or whatever, and then they sometimes sleep on the floor and then on outside in front of a train station because the last train finished like 12 a.m. and then they wake up until they sleep on the street until like 4-5 a.m. take a fast train, go back home, take a shower, and then they go back straight to office. Like, that's their life. I'm exaggerating, but you will probably see a lot of them just tired, physically tired, mentally exhausted, psychologically exploited by whole system. If you're working in Japanese company, it's not gonna be you having some kind of entitlement for like vacations or work-life balance or family time. No, it's you versus entire society and system. Because it's you versus the majority. You can't complain because everybody else is already following the model. So like if you start complaining, like, it's like, okay, if you don't like it, you can leave it. It's kind of that thing. It's where you don't have much option to choose. So obsolete business practice as well. They're not necessarily their job position is kind of funny because they don't look for a candidate based on their professional skills necessarily. They do a thing called university, like in a new hire for like a fresh graduate. They do that a lot because many Japanese traditional companies have inherited this system called lifetime employment, where they invest more long term in new employees. So they take those people with less professional skills right off the college or university. They train them to become more generalist. So that's the reason why they don't have kind of experienced hires as much as in North America. So what that means is that they're gonna have less productive performance because they're not really prepared, and they're actually job title called a general or generalist, ippanshok or sogoshok. They're not really specialized, and so that for that reason, low pay and the business practice wise, it's kind of weird, And they don't hire experienced ones that much, and therefore, because companies are not looking for experienced ones, demand is not that high. So think about Silicon Valley. A lot of companies looking for new, experienced hires, right? So because of the competition among multiple companies, pay goes up, which is good for us, Whereas in Mexico, I heard, not many companies looking for jobs, but there are too many applicants. So supply and demand, these dynamics play a big role in terms of low pay their work-life balance and their package that they're getting. But essentially in Japan, it's not so fluid to switch between jobs. So companies have more power to control because it's harder for people to move around, like in Seattle, Silicon Valley, like West Coast or tech companies, right? So it's harder for us people. And I've mentioned, but no, it's not human-friendly society and system. Thinking about raising kids, thinking about having family, good luck. They have less support. First of all, childcare. It's so competitive in Tokyo. It's almost, I heard in the metropolitan Tokyo, it's almost impossible to find childcare services because it's all booked up like next 6 months or so. It's not just a Japan or Tokyo problem. I've heard about it in Munich. I also heard that childcare is super expensive in North America. They need to pay like $1,000 a month or something like that. Also, work-life balance connected to this non-human friendly. It's Japan. It's super great in terms of history and food and all that nature that they offer. But in terms of human system, it's really archaic. They have this top-down, micromanaged kind of way of social system. So it's really top-down, meaning that a lot of rules imposed from top executive, top government. That's why you might have seen when you travel to Japan, you notice many signs like, oh, don't use your smartphone while walking on a platform, or line up here, exact line here within these boxes, in the train. They have a line set up, drawn on the platform. Or just so many rules, regulations, just so much expectations. Almost too much, to me. Lastly, I want to talk about uptight, too many fucks given kind of culture. This is the people culture. It's kind of similar to Germany. I've noticed a lot. North America, West Coast ones, pretty laid back, chill, and everybody's more open and warm-hearted on the surface, not necessarily deep down. And there's also another topic for discussion about this, but on a superficial level, just because there are too many rules, the people have too much expectation. It's almost like this thing called everybody has an inner police, where they're watching out for every single person breaking rules and stuff like that. I'm talking with exaggeration, but basically people just have too much expectation, giving too many fucks for other people and the rules, and they have nothing more if they have something more important to give a fuck about it, then they wouldn't care about little things. But it's society is built around rules and obeying to their thing. So people just oh, you can't do this. You don't really hear that phrase in West Coast. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, you should line up here. You don't say that. You don't impose your subjective the expectation of somebody else, because it's more based around personal freedom and flexibility and macromanagement as opposed to micromanagement. But whereas in Japan, it's kind of like a sense of community where they want to ostracize those people who are breaking a lot of rules, and they're gonna look at you with that kind of judgmental, look. That's kind of like Germany and Japan I've experienced and observed. To me, every time I see that kind of events happening to me, or see people reacting to that, it's to me it's they don't have anything else to anything more important fuck worthy to think about, to care about. It's just and then especially those people especially commonality here between German and then Japanese. Sorry, German, I'm kind of dragging you into this video, but they're typically looking less happy. They're more on a serious side. They have less small talk. They have less a smiley face, on average in general. And so I feel like they're missing out on a big thing, a big picture. But because they've grown up in that kind of tight community and the culture, probably they don't have the different way of viewing. But because I've lived in North America and Japan and in Europe, and I've experienced different things, I can kind of take a survey, and kind of see like where I'm at and then what I like and what I don't like when it comes to certain points in different culture and countries. So that's the kind of gist about the reason why I left Japan. Is just it's fun if you go travel as an outsider, but as the saying goes, living and traveling in one country is different. When you're traveling, you're probably seeing only the good side of the country and culture. You're not necessarily immersing yourself into their own culture as an insider. So you don't need to. You're off the hook from the local rules and local expectations. Especially this applies to Japan if you're coming as a foreigner, because Japanese would exclude you, take you as an exception because you look like foreigners. So they don't put as the same strict expectations on you as to local Japanese. They're more, embracing, because they know you don't understand Japanese. They know you're out from outside. But if you're living in Japan, you need to conform to whatever the rules and expectation they have. It's kind of similar in every country, but I'm saying Japan has just too much, and just pessimistic and negative long-term wise, people and the social system wise. It's not set up built right. I might be wrong. I might be having higher expectation because I've seen different countries better systems, but definitely in developed countries, Japan is among the lowest. In terms of social welfare they offer. I didn't want to work there, but in terms of food and then culture and history and then cleanness and people politeness, how they clean up, how they treat people, just amazing. There's so much going on in the people culture, amount of consideration they put and they pay. You might not see, it's not obvious, but that's a great thing about it. They have a deep thinking. It's more, I would say, sophisticated, per se. Whereas in other countries, it's just all about, maybe they're probably loose on their time schedule, not respecting other people's time, or not respecting nature, or city-wise, they're throwing garbages and junks on the streets, which is not really great. Or food, every single details, and detail is key. Arts and history and science. Japan has such a well-balanced culture, so that's something that attracts me still as an outsider. But that keeps me wanting to go back there. Visit back. So that's it, guys. Definitely cool country and a bunch of great cities to live. If you know what to expect and what to compromise. It might be hard to have a real human relationship with Japanese because they're kind of more closed off, and then they're gonna put you as an outsider here, foreigners. It's hard to find and build a deeper connection because they definitely put foreigners on pedestal, and they treat you based on their looks for sure, more or less, more so than let's say people in North America. But it's definitely interesting. You should definitely go check them out, those cities and cultures. Definitely travel worthy. One of the best food. I think it's one of the top 3, the best food and culture in the entire world. History, just amazing. Photography worthy. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely go see on your own eyes. And in terms of work-life balance wise, it's gonna be shit. Pay is gonna be shit. You'll be lucky if you get a really nice paying job. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but if you get normal multi international global companies job position in Japan, then you would expect to get paid $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. It's possible, but those are really tiny portion of the entire pie. With that said, I'll catch you guys later. If you have any questions about Japan video, why I left Japan, let me know in the comment section. I'm thinking about doing a why I left Vancouver, Canada, another video because I've just left Vancouver for Europe. And people have asked me quite a bit, like, why did you move from like North America to Germany? Because from people here, like Europeans, Eastern Europeans, Central Europeans, people have moved to Germany a lot because of the better life and better social infrastructures. And they ask me like, why? Because people usually want to go to North America for an engineering job, it's better pay or, better social system. But I disagree with certain points about like, Canada behind United States work culture behind European work-life balance or like pay, expectation, life, family, insurance, school, everything considered. There are many reasons why I left Vancouver, so I'm going to do that. If you liked it, make sure to hit the like button so that it'll be my motivation to make another videos like this. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.